Hey everyone, welcome to Module 12. And I don't know about you, but I'm tired today. I've kind of been doing a lot of reading and a lot of writing and some of the things I've had on my plate. So I'm kind of pooped out. And I'll bet you are even more pooped out working 40 plus hours a week, working on your master's. But as I always try to encourage you, it's good news is that every time you click on a new module, you're 1 week closer to being done with the semester. And then one semester being done with the program. So module 12 is, these are good modules. The content's excellent. I think that this one here is really relevant to work. I think there's so many good points in the materials. And I think that when you look at your job, especially if you're a leader and you manage people, there's so much in here that's helpful that should fill in the blanks for questions you may have had or to help you to learn new things that you didn't know before. The module really focuses on two main areas. The first is on labor relations and all the stuff around unions. And the second one, part of the module, is really on employment law. And employment law really drives so much of what we do around management of people. And especially if you're in a role with a leadership capacity where you have people reporting to you, understanding the legal aspects of all this is really absolutely critical. When you think about labor relations, I want you all to keep in mind that those of you that work at HCSC, which is the bulk of our students, that HCSC is a union shop. People often don't think about it. I think I mentioned this in our last video, but within Illinois, within a certain geographical radius of the Randolph office, certain jobs are unionized there. And so HCSC falls under the category of a union employer. But also the thing that is interesting is that HCSC also sells its products to union organizations. And so here they may be negotiating with the union, with the bargaining unit, and then here there are other companies which they're also selling their products to. And so that's a very interesting dynamic on how they maintain their relationship with the internal union that represents the HCSC employees in Illinois, and also maintains good relationship with the overall union customer base. And so in this module, there is the labor website for the Blue Cross Blue Shield Enterprise. And so you may want to take a peek at that and see how that information is shared around the union relationship with many blue plans. And so it's really fascinating. And I had the opportunity for a number of years to be on the bargaining committee with the union when I was in Chicago. And so I would go away for several weeks where we would meet with the union leadership and the HCSC leadership and negotiate the contract. And there's a contract available at workplace if you ever need a chance to look at that, or if you have union folks. I guess you probably wouldn't if you're in Texas, but you never know. Sometimes things cross over. But the union is an interesting dynamic within HCSC. There's a discussion post where we post, I found a website that has the pros and the cons of the union, because people are mixed on whether unions are helpful or not helpful. And so take a look at that website and then discuss your opinion on whether you think unions are valuable or not, and support that with an outside reference. And so we'll study unions, we'll look at how unions are governed, how that all works, and then there's a number of other mandates that we'll look at in the module around the Fair Labors Act, the Civil Rights Act, OSHA, FMLA, and I know we all know and love FMLA, and trying to track those 12 hours that people can be off during a 12-month period. And that's always a real challenge. We look at affirmative action, there's some content on discrimination, and then as I mentioned, civil rights. And just an update that you won't find in the book is that the civil rights criteria, the protected classes, have been expanded. The Supreme Court just recently added sexual orientation. And so prior to that ruling, you were protected by your sex, so you could not be discriminated or fired at work because of whether you're a male or female, and now you are protected because of your sexual orientation. And so that has recently been just approved by the Supreme Court, and no further decisions on transgender issues, but that's also under discussion. And so unions are the first piece. The second part has to do with just employee relationships, employee management, and employee law around employment at will, wrongful discharge, what makes discharging an employee wrong, what makes it right, what makes it okay, how do you terminate, the whole idea around employee compensation through when you're out of work, and how does that work, how to avoid wrongful discharge in the work setting. And, I have an old rule that, HR really is your friend, and you should be very close to them and stay close to them always to make sure you're following all of the rules. And if you're going to do anything, you want to move it their direction around termination, employee counseling. And I'm always a big fan of whenever you have an employee who's not seeming to get with the program, that you document, and that you communicate, particularly with the HR team, and make sure that they are fully up to speed, no matter how slow it seems to take. It's all about persistence, and it's all about documentation. You'll see some information on how to hire, how follow the hiring process. And, I'm a big fan of whenever you hire an employee, if you can meet with them at least 2 times, and if they're going into a leadership role, always meeting with them 3 times. That's always the best practice, because you're hiring, to me, is really kind of a crapshoot, and because people always present differently than they really are, and getting references when you can is always optimal, but also getting to know the person and going with your gut has always been a good practice for me. So we'll spend some time lastly looking at some federal and state requirements around how this is governed. And I think the topics in the module are excellent. And I hope that by what you spend time doing this module will really expand your knowledge of healthcare law in the employment space around both unions and other mandates that are at the federal and state level. So we will look forward to catching up with you next time, and keep on trucking. Everyone is doing so well, and so glad to be with you. Take care.